Let's begin by asking the obvious question. Why Iran? Why here? Why now? The answer is not culture. It is not religion. It is not ideology. The answer is empire, and more specifically, the British Empire at the end of the 19th century. By the 1870s and 1880s, Britain is still the dominant global power, but it is no longer comfortable. Something fundamental has shifted. Coal, the fuel that powered the Industrial Revolution, the Royal Navy, and British supremacy, is no longer enough. By the late 19th century, British planners come to a stark conclusion. Oil is the future. That insight immediately creates a problem. Britain does not control oil. The largest oil company on Earth is Standard Oil, founded by John D. Rockefeller, which by the 1890s controls roughly 95% of American oil production. The second major player is Royal Dutch Shell, a hybrid Anglo-Dutch enterprise that emerges after a Dutch company acquires controlling interest in a small British trading firm, originally an antique dealership, called Shell. Now pause here, because this matters. Britain is not afraid of the Dutch. Britain is not afraid of the United States. What Britain is afraid of is dependency. What happens if the Netherlands falls? What happens if the United States elects a president who dismantles its own system? Empires do not plan for friendship. They plan for failure. So Britain decides it needs its own oil, under its own control. Extracted from territory, it can dominate directly. But where? The planet is large. Even an empire struggles to narrow it down. So Britain does something deceptively simple. It reads history. Medieval sources repeatedly mention oil in the Middle East. Streets lit with oil lamps, bitumen used for construction, natural seepage known for centuries. That tells British planners something crucial. Oil was already there. And in the 19th century, finding oil does not require satellites or seismic imaging. You look for black shale, black limestone, porous rock that pulls oil upward. You dig with shovels and picks. Sometimes you literally step in it. So Britain turns its attention to the Middle East and expands its presence in the Arabian Gulf, known at the time in British usage as the Arabian Gulf, not yet politicized into later naming disputes. Britain already has a foothold. The coastal Arab states, what will later become the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, and Oman, had operated pirate fleets in the early 19th century, attacking British shipping routes to India. Britain responds with a combination of naval force and treaties, turning former pirate coasts into protectorates. The British call it the Trucial Coast. Then, Britain moves north. In the late 19th century, Britain carves Kuwait out of the Ottoman Empire, placing itself at the mouth of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers near the Shatt al-Arab. This is not accidental. This is positioning, for oil and for war. And now we arrive at Iran. In 1901, a British entrepreneur named William Knox D'Arcy approaches the Iranian government. Iran at the time is ruled by the Qajar dynasty, specifically Mozaffar ad-Din Shah Qajar. This matters because the Qajar state is weak, deeply indebted, and governed by a ruler whose court culture revolves around opium consumption. That is not an insult. It is a structural fact. D'Arcy proposes a deal. If oil is found, the Shah receives the modern equivalent of $2.5 million in cash, plus 16% of future profits. Britain receives 84%. Pause again. This is not a partnership. This is extraction. Most oil concessions globally operate on 50-50 splits. This one does not. And yet the Shah agrees. Why? Because empires negotiate with institutions that cannot resist them. D'Arcy struggles initially. His company nearly collapses. But eventually, oil is discovered, in massive quantities, in southwestern Iran. Out of this emerges the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, founded in 1908. Britain is suddenly rich beyond imagination. And now, everything accelerates. Because oil is not just profit. Oil is naval power. Oil is war, and war is coming. Why does Britain care so much about oil by the early 20th century? Because Britain has another problem. Its name is Germany. Germany does not exist as a unified state until 1871. That makes it younger than the United States. But youth in this case is an advantage. Germany industrializes late, and therefore industrializes fast. By the early 1900s, the German Empire is a hyper-efficient industrial machine producing steel, weapons, and, most alarming to Britain, a modern navy. German ships are over-engineered, precise, and formidable. British ships are good. German ships are better. Britain responds the only way it knows how. If Germany builds one ship, Britain builds two. This arms race drives both empires toward financial exhaustion. Britain understands something must give. Then comes World War I. Officially, the war begins in 1914 after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria. But let's be honest, assassinations happen all the time. Empires do not collapse because of pistols in Sarajevo. They collapse because plans are already in motion. The German Kaiser briefly tries to back out. Britain refuses. Britain wants this war because it wants Germany broken and it wants oil secured. Britain and France sit down and prepare for the aftermath before the war is even finished. In 1916, they sign the Sykes-Picot Agreement, named after Sir Mark Sykes of Britain and François-Georges Picot of France. No Arabs are consulted. No Ottomans are consulted. No Iranians are consulted. A map is placed on a table. A crayon is taken out. Lines are drawn. The Ottoman Empire, once a global superpower that besieged Vienna twice in the 16th and 17th centuries, is now treated as a carcass. Why did it fall? Because beginning in the late 11th century, a conservative intellectual movement emerges in the Islamic world, questioning whether philosophy, science, and mathematics have gone too far, whether they distract from religious truth. Over centuries, this movement institutionalizes itself. Innovation slows. Reform attempts are blocked, often by the military. By the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire has fallen behind Europe technologically, economically, and militarily. It is the old man of geopolitics. So Britain and France carve it up. Syria and Lebanon go to France. Palestine and Jordan go to Britain. Iraq is initially promised to France, specifically because of oil in northern Iraq. Then comes Iran. Iran is not Ottoman territory. It is independent. That does not protect it. Britain draws a line through Iran. The north is assigned to Russia. The south, where the oil is, goes to Britain. And Russia agrees, because Russia has already done this before, and because Iran is not asked. Now ask the next question. What was Iran doing during all of this? In 1905, something extraordinary happens. Iran decides it wants to be a democracy. This is not imposed from outside. It is not a European project. It is a domestic movement driven by merchants, intellectuals, clerics, and reformers who recognize that unchecked monarchy has failed. By 1906, Iran establishes a parliament, called the Majlis, and creates the position of prime minister. Mozaffar ad-Din Shah Qajar signs the agreement, reluctantly. Then he dies in 1907. His successor, Muhammad Ali Shah Qajar, hates the constitution, and Britain is horrified. Because here is the problem. If Iran becomes a functioning democracy, then at some point the Iranian people will look at the 1901 oil concession and realize it is catastrophic, and if they vote to change it, Britain loses everything. So Britain does what empires do. It undermines democracy. Britain identifies a useful ally inside Iran, the Shia clergy, many of whom are deeply suspicious of parliamentary rule. Britain funds them, supports them, encourages resistance. At the same time, Britain approaches Russia. The proposal is simple: invade from the north while Britain destabilizes the south. Create chaos. Break the democratic experiment. Between 1906 and 1911, Iran is torn apart. Parliament is shelled. Reformers are arrested or killed. Foreign troops intervene. By 1911, the constitutional revolution has failed. Iran is not a democracy. But something irreversible has happened. The idea has been planted, and in 1909, Muhammad Ali Shah is deposed. He is replaced by Ahmad Shah Qajar, the last Qajar ruler. He will inherit a country that has learned a dangerous lesson. That empire does not forgive independence. Let's pause and ask the next unavoidable question. What happens to a country once its oil becomes more important than its sovereignty? The answer, in Iran's case, is simple. The state itself is reorganized around extraction. In 1908, oil is officially struck in commercial quantities at Masjid Soliman in southwestern Iran. This is not a minor discovery. This is one of the largest known oil reserves on the planet at the time. The Anglo-Persian Oil Company, formally incorporated that same year, becomes the central economic fact of Iranian life, without being Iranian. By 1914, just as World War I begins, the British government purchases a 51% controlling stake in Anglo-Persian oil. This is not capitalism anymore. This is state power. The British Admiralty, under Winston Churchill, has just converted the Royal Navy from coal to oil. Iran is now fueling the largest navy on Earth, and Iran has no control over this process. The Qajar state is collapsing. Ahmad Shah Qajar is young, weak, and politically irrelevant. Power shifts not through elections or institutions, but through force. Enter Reza Khan. In 1921, Reza Khan, an officer in the Persian Cossack Brigade, a force originally created with Russian assistance, launches a coup in Tehran. Britain does not oppose it. Britain quietly supports it. Because Reza Khan promises order, and order protects oil. By 1925, Reza Khan crowns himself Reza Shah Pahlavi, ending the Qajar dynasty and founding the Pahlavi dynasty. Let's be clear about what this represents. This is not nationalism overthrowing empire. This is empire selecting a more efficient manager. Reza Shah centralizes power aggressively. He builds roads, railways, schools, and a modern army. He weakens the clergy. He imposes secular law. He bans traditional dress. He restructures the bureaucracy. This looks like modernization, but the oil concession remains untouched. Because modernization without sovereignty is not independence. It is optimization for someone else's benefit. Iran becomes a modern state whose most valuable resource is still controlled by a foreign empire. And that contradiction will not remain stable. Now we need to address something deeper. Why does this modernization create resistance rather than stability? Because modernization is not neutral. It rearranges power. Reza Shah's reforms directly target the religious institutions that had historically mediated law, education, and legitimacy in Iranian society. Courts are secularized. Religious endowments are seized. Clerics are sidelined. This is not an abstract cultural shift. This is a transfer of authority. At the same time, the state promotes a narrative of ancient Persian identity, reaching back to the Achaemenid Empire, Cyrus the Great, Darius I, pre-Islamic grandeur. This is deliberate. It is meant to dilute Islamic authority by replacing it with nationalist mythology. Religion does not disappear, it reorganizes itself. Meanwhile, Britain remains embedded in the Iranian economy. The Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, renamed in 1935, operates as a state within a state. Iranian workers are paid a fraction of British wages. Iranian managers are excluded. Profits flow outward. Iran is modernizing, but unevenly, coercively, and without consent. Then comes World War II. In 1941, Britain and the Soviet Union jointly invade Iran. Why? Because Reza Shah has made the mistake of trying to balance powers. He flirts with Germany, he asserts too much independence. And once again, Iran is punished for imagining sovereignty. Reza Shah is forced to abdicate. He is exiled. His son takes the throne. His name is Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi. And now the stage is set for the central drama of modern Iranian history. Ask the next question carefully. What happens when Iran tries democracy again? After 1941, political space briefly opens. Parties form, newspapers publish, parliament debates, and one issue dominates everything: oil. In 1951, the Iranian parliament elects Mohammad Mossadegh as prime minister. Mossadegh is not a radical. He is a constitutionalist, a nationalist, a lawyer trained in Europe. His crime is simple. He insists that Iran should control its own oil. Mossadegh nationalizes the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. Britain responds with economic warfare, sanctions, blockades, lawsuits. When that fails, Britain turns to the United States. In 1953, the CIA and MI6 carry out Operation Ajax. Mossadegh is overthrown. The Shah is restored to absolute power. Iranian democracy is destroyed, for the second time. And this time, the lesson is unmistakable. Mohammad Reza Shah rules as an autocrat. He expands the military. He aligns fully with the United States. He launches the White Revolution, land reform, literacy campaigns, women's suffrage. On paper, this is progress. In reality, it is enforced by the secret police, Savak, trained by the CIA and Mossad. Opposition is crushed. Clerics are monitored. Intellectuals are jailed. Science advances. Universities grow. But knowledge is controlled. Politics is forbidden. Religion does not disappear. It goes underground. By the 1970s, the contradiction is unbearable. A modernized state with no legitimacy, fueled by oil, guarded by fear. And then, inevitably, it breaks. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution erupts. This is not chaos. This is accumulation. Decades of suppressed democracy, foreign control of resources, weaponized modernization, humiliated religion. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini returns from exile. The monarchy collapses. The Islamic Republic is born, not as a medieval throwback, but as a reaction to empire. Religion becomes the language through which sovereignty is reclaimed. And now, finally, we reach the unavoidable conclusion. Iran's last 125 years are not a story of irrational religion versus rational modernity. They are a story of who controls knowledge, resources, and power, and who is never allowed to forget it.